Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 2. In my last video I was talking about how there was a rare occultation that happened yesterday with the moon. There was actually 4 occultations that Arthur Prudent let me know about, which were Venus, Regulus, Mars, and Mercury, and these were all taking place in the constellation Leo. And that's very important because if you go to Genesis 49:10, I've talked about this before, but it reads, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." But if you look at this in the Greek, it says, "will not eclipse the arch leader from Judah and the lawgiver," and this is the same word for prince that's used in Daniel 9:24 through 27 when it talks about Messiah the prince. So it says, "Nor the prince from the thigh of him until come the laid up possessions of him, and him the expectation of the nation." So that's how this reads in Greek. Okay, so you have the star Regulus over here, which is the king planet in the constellation Leo, and it's saying, and it's located right at the thigh of Leo, and it's saying that the arch ruler of Judah will not be eclipsed until Shiloh comes from the thigh of him, and Regulus is located right at the thigh of Leo. And so the moon, which is right here, it actually, if you move it back a few hours, you'll see that it occulted Regulus, and this was exactly at 6 hours 51 minutes 30 seconds is what it's showing here. So if you move this up, you see that it moves. So it was right over Regulus, and prior to that it occulted Venus. If you go back to about, I guess, the first hour, there's a conjunction with Venus, and then if you go forward to about the 6th hour or the 5th hour, it occults Regulus, and then it goes on to occult Mars and Mercury. So, oops. Okay, so you can see it went over all of those planets and stars, all 4, Venus, Regulus, Mars, and Mercury. This all happened yesterday, going through to today. Okay, and so this is right on the heels of the sun being occulted as well as Regulus by the moon on August 21st. And I'll show you that again in a second, but I just wanted to point out that once again it's saying here that God is saying that he will not be eclipsed. The leader of Judah and the lawgiver from between his feet will not be eclipsed until Shiloh comes. And so this occultation just took place. Prior to that we had the eclipse. Okay, that was on August 21st, and I'll just move this forward so we can see that take place. And as you can see, it was right about 21 hours on August 21st. The moon occulted the sun as well as Regulus. This was right by the star Regulus that the eclipse took place. And then prior to that, on July 25th, the moon had occulted Regulus once again during that time, and there was a lot of things that came out in the news concerning the mark of the beast right around July 25th. And there was an occultation taking place at that time as well. Okay, and I want to get to the blood moon pattern in a minute, but first I just want to point out that I believe this might be what was taking place here in Revelation 12, especially in verse 8. I believe this is a parallel to Daniel 8, and I believe Revelation 12 is also a parallel to Daniel 12. But if you go to Daniel 8, over here you see where it's talking about the he-goat, and in verse 10 it's saying, and it's talking about the little horn, and it's saying, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, which would be Jesus, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. I believe this is talking about Jesus making an end to the sacrifice. And if you actually look at this in the Greek, it actually gives you a clue as to the timing of the rapture right here, because over here it's talking about the little horn exalting himself, and then in the Greek it says, and up unto this word right here means the chief ruler. It's got this word, which is the word arch, that was in the Shiloh prophecy, and this is strategos, like strategy. It's like the chief general. And then over here it's until he rescues, this word right here is rescues the captivity, and by him the sacrifice. And this word means, I've looked it up before, it means to be disturbed is how it's usually translated in the Septuagint, and become exalted. Now it's talking about the Antichrist as well over here, and the holy place will become desolate. But over here it's talking about the Antichrist, or the little horn, exalting himself to the chief general up until that rescues the captivity. So it's talking about rescuing the captivity right here, which is the rapture. And then it goes on to say, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the holy place was deserted. Okay, and this is also parallel to Daniel 12, where it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found in the book. But just before that, in Daniel 11, it says, the very last verse, it's actually in verse 36, it says, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. And then, just shortly after that, that's when Michael stands up in Daniel 12. So this is a parallel to Revelation 12. Okay, so when you get to Revelation 12, you see that the war is mentioned here in verse 7, and then again in verse 17 is when it mentions the war again. So the two times that the war is mentioned is in verse 7 and 17. And in verse 7 it says, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. This lines up with Daniel 8. And I'll just show you that again. It says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So this is when Satan is cast down from heaven. And over here in verse 8 it said, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they were cast out of heaven in verse 8. And then it mentions the war again in verse 17. But starting from verse 13 it says, and when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for times and half a time from the face of the serpent. Okay, and if you go back to Daniel 11 verse 22, it says, and with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And if you look at the word before him, in the Hebrew it means from the face of him. So this word panim in the Hebrew means face. So she's going to be overflown from the face of him, is what it means when it says before him. Okay, so if you go back to Revelation 12:14, it says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and half of time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So she's being kept away from the face of the serpent. And then it mentions the war again in verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Okay, so I want to go back to Daniel 8, and I just want to show you these words so you don't have to take my word for it. But as you can see, it says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And over here it says, and unto the, and I'll show you this word. Okay, I just copy and pasted it, and we can look at this. You can see the images, but we can look at this definition. And over here it says commander-in-chief. And I'll do this one. Okay, I just copy and pasted it. Over here it says he may rescue, but we'll try to find another source. Okay, you can see that word right here. I'll show it to you again. It's this word. And then that's the same as this word. And if you look at the definition, it means to rescue, save, deliver, preserve. And then this word means the captivity, but I'll show it to you. Okay, you can see it here in the Bible Hub definition. You can see that it means captivity. And then over here it talks about the sacrifice being taken away. And this word means to become. The root of this word is Genesis. It has implications of birth there as well. And then this word actually means to prosper him. And then the holy place was deserted or made desolate. Okay, so he magnified himself even to the prince of the host that rescues the captivity, is the extra information that's included here in the Septuagint. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So this is just another clue as to the timing of the rapture. I just wanted to point that out. But I'm about out of time, so I'll have to continue in the next video. Thank you.